Hey everybody, and welcome to another Flipping Pages. Now in today's episode, we're going to have a look at Wargames Illustrated issue 456. This is the December 2025 issue, the Christmas issue. And we're doing this in March. And this is a great time to remind folks that Wargames Illustrated does not sponsor any of our videos. Neither do we get anything from Wargames Illustrated when we do flip-throughs. So we can only do flip-throughs when we get the magazines finally. So we finally have the magazine in March, and we're going to do a flip-through of it. So on the cover is the Clauses, Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. And the contents begins with the editorial, which is, wishing you that you will enjoy the Christmas themed issue. Oh, by the way, the seriously, Neil Roberts has done the art. Now, if you like this art, why not, get the Prime version, and you get the art, without all of the, titles and stuff like that, and will clutter out the image. So you can just get it if you work with WI Prime, or consider a subscription. Okay, moving into the magazine, we've got Observation Post. And Observation Post looks at a collaboration. I want to say it's a collaboration between Wargames Atlantic and Polykid. And this is for the Hey Ho box set. Now, this box set has people in the shop have been quite curious about it. But the biggest question was what's in it, and does it fulfill whatever gaming needs that the customer was asking for, most of the customers asking for. And this article pretty much covers everything you need to know about the box set. We might do a flip through of Hey Ho at some other video, but Observation Post has done a quick review right here. Moving along, we have Battlefronts, Flames of War, Operation Bagration, and this is a review of their game. And then we have Offensive Miniatures. I've always been curious about Offensive Miniatures. I should get myself a few at some point. I keep repeating that. Now moving into Release Radar, there's a bit of news here. Now the Little Corporal has acquired Frykov 15, Quick Reaction Force, Moderns, and Airwolf 1200. Now Airwolf is basically 1/200 scale planes, aircraft, and they've acquired them. So now these miniatures have a home, right? The miniatures out of Frykov 15 and stuff like that have a home. So if you're interested, head on over to Little Corporal. They will be updating their site soon. As of now, they haven't updated it with all of the miniatures yet. Maybe in about a month. Check again. Okay, moving along, we've got some terrain, and we've got Head Bunny Games' Standing Stones here, and then we have war bases with some houses, and some Dark Age villages, Patrick miniatures with some Cold War terrain. And then what's this? We got Soviet Airborne from First Corps, and then we have this from Black Site Studios. Now I'm not so sure who does the design of the book, but there's sometimes you have like things like this where it's 1, 2, and it actually tells you which is which, and sometimes there's not any. I'm not so sure why that is, but can I just recommend to Wargames Illustrated, the editor, to do this? That way we know what we're looking at. So for example, in this bit over here, we can see that number 1 is US astronauts, and number 2 is the Soviet cosmonauts. Yeah, try that. I mean, it works. It works. It helps promote the miniatures and the company as well. And then we've got Crooked Dice's terrain as well, with Baraka miniatures, and then we have Ebro miniatures with Carabiner Cavalry, and then a book from Ancillus Wargames, and then another book from Ammo by MiG, and then this miscellaneous stuff, which includes figures, 28mm figures inspired by The Eagle Has Landed. If you watch the movie and you're interested, there'll be more pictures coming up in a bit. And then we got some Footsore releases as well. Moving forward, we have Quickfire, and this is basically the editor and the Perry twins went to Gradara, and I googled it. It's a museum, and they had this this event, and the three of them did something for them, which is kind of cool. Then there's a splash page for Conflict 47. Look at that. Looks really, really pretty. And I think they're almost getting that vibe where each of the different factions have its own look. So yeah, this is a great way to have a quick look at all the factions involved in Conflict 47. Okay, so moving along, we have the first article, and the first article is it's basically a series of scenarios, games played with 7TV, the rulebook, and this the night the snow turned red. Now the really cool thing about this article, which I quite like, is where they source the miniatures from, right? And how they name the different characters, which is I think is very very cool. So like for example, the Santa Helpers and Oompa Loompas, these are the Gin Wilder 1971 Oompa Loompas, and they got them, and then you got miniatures from, let me see now. It says here, Crooked Dices. So no, hang on, no, Foundry. Yeah, it's Foundries. The clauses are from Foundry, and it's really cool because there's a game with a whole lot of different miniatures, and it's a game that you can play, even when it's not Christmas, which is very, very cool. It's got all these nice charts and stuff. Full on. Moving along, we have more books from Hellion and Company, and then we have Pillage Victrix. This is the medieval market, which just got released months ago, but it hasn't arrived at the store here. But as you can see, it came out in December. Okay, next up, article Outrage and Retribution. This is basically a two game scenario for Assassins and Templars, which in the November issue, if I'm not mistaken, you get the rules, right? And this is basically two games that you can actually, like, two scenarios that you can actually run, and it comes with nice pictures, nice images as well to inspire you to, like, go ahead and run your own. And then we have cultural experience. This time they're inviting you to go to Salonika, War in the Birdcage, they say. So that's that. And then we have Wayland Games with an ad paying the bills. Now, this issue is I want to call it the Partizan issue, or the Other Partizan issue. And you got all these different tables to look at. Each of these have their own little, like, honors. And if I was you and I was going to choose just one magazine to get, right, I'd get magazines like this. It's when they cover games like the Partizan or Other Partizan. Why? Because once the event is over, these tables disappear, right? Unless they do a redo. But it's a great place to keep log, or to keep them for keepsake, right? And if you had a good memory with these, it's a good magazine to get. Or if you want some inspiration, it's definitely a good magazine to get. Moving along, Bolt Action 3rd edition has an ad right here paying the bills. And then we have Geek Nation Tours. Now, this is another tour, and this one, they're inviting you to go to Nagoya, Sekihara, Kanazawa, Japan, October 9th, 2026. So that's coming. Moving along, we have Fighting Feet in the Mud. And this is basically a STL figure for Trench Crusade, right? This is the Heretic Trooper, and it goes step by step on how to paint this. Now, I understand that there are a lot of, like, online videos on how to paint miniatures, but nothing beats, showing it how it progresses in picture form like this, right? So if you are interested, this is definitely an article worth looking at and flipping through. Then with Heinz figures and First Corps paying the bills, and as you can see, First Corps, you've got Legal has Landed, and you got Liam Duval here, basically Donald Sutherland, and you got Michael Caine there, and then Donald Sutherland again. I mean, if you like the movie First Corps, go get the figures and paint them up. Moving along, we are recreating Waterloo, a wargaming journey, and this is basically to celebrate the 210th anniversary of the Battle of Waterloo. I mean, ever so often you have these tribute games or these large games, and they're always worth keeping, looking at, and enjoying. Why? Because, well, it's a big undertaking to do Waterloo. Moving along, we have Rubicon models, and then we have Oathmark, both helping to pay the bills. Human Heavy Infantry gets released in December. And then we have the Abyssinian Abyss, the Italian invasion of 1935-36. And this is basically, if I remember correctly, the author built a force, and he was trying to find other factions to fight against, and he happened upon the Ethiopian force, right? And apparently Badger Miniatures has miniatures that he can actually use. And the best bit is he these miniatures were actually featured in Wargames Illustrated 447. So if you had an issue, this is like, hey, there you go. It's from that issue, that kind of thing. Yeah. So is that a game, and then we have let me see now. This is Battlefront with their Operation Bagration and World War III, and then the Butcher and Bolt, which I'm really curious about this one. So we're waiting for that to come out, and then we have Charles Singleton French Italian Wars. I mean, this is really cool. I think Charles Singleton brought his army and to look at, and they talk about the army. This happens in my store quite often, and it's nice to see it like documented, and all these really nice looking figures. I mean, if you're looking for inspiration and looking for nice images, right, this is definitely the article for you. And then we have designer notes. If you didn't know, Into the Valley of Death has just come out as the Crimean War expansion supplement from Black Powder, and this is an interview with the designer. Always great to read interviews with the designer, because we want to see where they're coming from and where they're going to and why the book was made. And then we have Pop Up Your ACW Wargaming, and I did not know there were Civil War news cards. I did not know there was such a thing, but apparently one of the writers dug through his uncles, his dads, or grandfathers, I can't remember, and got a lot of cards and decided to use that as a basis for an article, to do games with, which it's cool. It's a great idea. It's a great article. And then we have Old Pikers presents Arnhem 17 to 20 September 1944. For me personally, A Bridge Too Far is my top five war movies ever. And so this definitely puts a smile on my face, definitely. And as you can see, they break down the table into like all these different sections, and then they zoom in on each section in each part of the article, which is fantastic. And then there's advert for Wargames Illustrated 2025 Readers Awards, which will happen in the next issue. Mardef Miniatures, thank you. North Star Figures, Skytrax, Master Studio, Athena, Dixon, all of these helping to pay the bills, which is fantastic. And then you have got Wargames, Atlantic, Gunfighters Ball, all these guys helping to pay the bills, which is fantastic. And as usual, Gripping Beast takes the back page. That is pretty much Wargames Illustrated, the December issue. I don't know if you can still get it anymore, but if you can't and you find this in the bargain bin, hey, go check it, go and get it. You know what's inside. Lots of good articles in here. Or if anything here interests you, maybe either check if there's a back issue place somewhere and get it, or loan from a friend. Yeah, I hope you enjoy these flip throughs. Again, like I said, Wargames Illustrated does not pay us for this, which is why sometimes the flip throughs come very, very late. So, hope you enjoyed the flip through. Like and subscribe. And as always, don't forget to enjoy painting those figures.